There was a button on that elevator panel that wasn't on the elevator panel. I know how that sounds. Let me say it the way it actually was. The Merritt Tower had a laminated inspection card screwed to the wall of the service car, the kind every commercial building has, with a little schematic of the button layout printed right on it. B2, B1, then 1 through 19, then the alarm and the door holds. I'd looked at that card 100 nights without looking at it, the way you look at the back of a cereal box. 19 floors and 2 basements. That's what the card said. That's what the building was. But the panel had one more button than the card did. Down at the bottom, below B2, off on its own, there was a round steel button with no number stamped in it and no label beside it. Blank, worn smooth in the center like a lot of thumbs had found it before mine. And it was warm, not hot. Warm the way a mug is warm 20 minutes after you set it down, when you pick it up and can't tell anymore if it's the cup that's warm or your own hand. Every other button on that panel was cold steel. That one held heat like something had been resting against it. I told myself it was the machinery. Motors run hot. Maybe there was a heater relay behind the panel right at that spot. That held for about a week. Right up until I found the logbook the daytime staff didn't know existed, and read the names, and understood that I was not the first person on the night crew to notice the warm button. I was just the first one in a while who was going to be stupid enough to press it. I want to tell this in order. The order is the only part of it I still trust, because the rest of what's in my head, I'm not sure how much of it is mine anymore. My name is Sam Cavanaugh. I'm 46. For most of my life, I did drywall and finished carpentry. Good work you could point at. Until my back went and the jobs dried up and I made a run of choices. I'm not going to dress up for you. The short version is that I drank, and I kept drinking after it stopped being fun, and by the time I put it down for good, the things it had cost me were already gone and didn't come back just because I'd quit. What I had left, at 46, was a night contract with a commercial cleaning company called Brightwork, 40 hours a week, running a cart and a vacuum and a ring of keys through an empty office tower between 10 at night and 6 in the morning. It paid enough. And it suited me, if I'm honest. The building was quiet and it didn't ask me anything, and there was nobody in it to watch me be a man who cleaned floors for a living at 46. I had a daughter. I have a daughter. Her name is Nora. And she was 19 that year, and she hadn't answered a call from me in about 14 months. I don't blame her. I'd earned every one of those months. But I kept her number in my phone, and I kept a picture of her taped inside my locker at the Brightwork depot. Not a recent one. I didn't have a recent one. Just a school photo from when she was maybe 16, before it all came apart, where she's got the smile she does when she's trying not to smile. I'm telling you about her now because you're going to need to understand what the building offered me. It didn't offer me money, or power, or my back the way it used to be. It knew better than that. It offered me a Sunday. The Merritt was an old building trying to look like a new one. 1920s bones under a 90s renovation, terrazzo floors that had been carpeted over, radiators bricked into the walls, an atrium lobby they'd modernized with a lot of glass that never quite hid how heavy the place was underneath. 2 elevators for the public up front, bright and fast, and 1 service car at the back. Older, slower, the one I used, because you don't run a cleaning cart through the nice cars. The service car smelled like machine oil and old rope. It had a folding jump seat that no longer folded and a light that buzzed at a pitch you felt in your teeth. It took its time. You pressed your floor and there was always a pause, a second too long before it decided to go, like it was thinking it over. My routine was the same every night. Cart up to 19, work my way down, floor by floor, offices dark, motion lights snapping on ahead of me and off behind me, so I moved through the building inside a little traveling bubble of light with black on both ends of it, empty desks, somebody's kids drawing tacked to a cubicle wall, a half-dead plant. The particular sound an empty office building makes at 3 in the morning, which is not silence. It's the HVAC breathing, The ice machine on 12 dropping a load, the structure ticking as it cools. You learn a building's noises. That's the thing I want you to hold on to. I knew that building's noises. So I knew, later, exactly which ones didn't belong. The first 3 weeks, nothing. Then, one night, riding down from 19 with the cart, I set my coffee on the little ledge by the panel, and my knuckle brushed the blank button, and I felt the warmth of it, and I looked down and actually saw it for the first time, really saw it. A button with no number, below the lowest floor, holding heat in a cold steel box. I didn't press it, not that night. I'm not built like that. I looked at it the way you look at a spider you're not sure is dead. And then the doors opened on the lobby and I pushed my cart out and told myself I'd ask somebody about it. I did ask. That's the part people skip when they tell these stories. I asked. There was one other person whose shift overlapped mine, an older woman named Marisol who'd been cleaning that building longer than Brightwork had held the contract. She'd come with the building, gotten absorbed by 3 different companies over the years, the kind of employee who's really more a feature of the place than a worker in it. She did the lobby and the public floors. We'd cross paths at the loading dock around 2, sharing the quiet, not talking much. I asked her about the button. I said it like a joke, the way you do when you don't want to sound like you've lost it. Hey, that back elevator's got a mystery button. Any idea where it goes? She didn't laugh. She was refilling a spray bottle and she just went still with her hands in the sink, and after a second she said, without turning around, "Don't press the button that's warm." I asked her why. "Because the cold ones bring you back," she said. "That's all a button's supposed to do. Take you somewhere and bring you back." She screwed the top on the bottle. "Some of them only do half." I asked her what that meant. She looked at me then, and I'll tell you, she had kind eyes and something behind them was just gone. Emptied out. Like a house with the furniture still in it but nobody living there. "I had a son," she said. And then she stopped, and her face did something I've never forgotten. A kind of searching, like a word on the tip of the tongue, except it was a person. "I had a son," she said again, quieter, and she couldn't finish the sentence. She didn't know how it ended. She'd forgotten her own son partway through telling me he existed. She picked up her cart and went back to the lobby, and we never talked about it again. And I want to be honest with you about what I did with that warning, because it matters. I filed it under sad old woman, losing her memory. Night shift makes everybody strange. I made her the crazy one so I didn't have to be the scared one. That's a thing I'm good at, making somebody else the problem. 2 nights later I found the logbook, and I couldn't do that anymore. It was in the service car itself, wedged behind the dead jump seat, down in the gap where the seat met the wall. A cheap black notebook so old the cover had gone soft as cloth, water-stained, half the pages stuck together. I only found it because I dropped my keys and they slid into the gap and I had to fish around. It wasn't an official log. It was something the night people had kept among themselves, going back decades, one cleaner handing it to the next. Most of it was ordinary, codes for the supply closets, which floors bathrooms flooded, a running note about a supervisor everyone hated, the kind of thing shift workers passed down. But there was a section near the back, in a dozen different hands, a dozen different pens, that was just names and dates. And next to some of the names, notes. Dang, pressed it 3/91, came back wrong, doesn't know us anymore. Aisha, warm button, went down, up 40 min later, says she saw her mother. Cries all shift now, quit 6/03. Do not press below B2, it gives you what you lost, it keeps what you are. And then, in the most recent ink, a line that wasn't even a full sentence, like whoever wrote it got interrupted, or lost the thread themselves. Marisol went back for, that's it. That's where it ends. Marisol went back for, and then nothing. A little trail of pen where the hand had lifted. She'd started to write down what she went in for, and by the time the pen reached the end of the sentence, she couldn't remember it either. I sat on the floor of that elevator with the notebook in my lap. and I understood 3 things very fast, and none of them the way you understand something in your head. I understood them in my stomach. The button was real. It had always been real, and whatever it did it by trading. I should have quit. Aisha quit. Aisha had the right idea. I want that on the record. That the smart move, the sane move, the move I'd tell anybody else to make, was to put the notebook back and finish my floors and never touch the warm button. And if the warm button started to feel like it was waiting for me, quit the job and clean a different building. But I want you to understand what 14 months of silence does to a man. What it's like to have a daughter in the world who won't pick up, and to lie awake at 6 in the morning with the blinds orange and go back over the exact night it broke, the specific things you said, and know that you cannot unsay them, that time doesn't run backward, that the one thing in the universe you would give anything to have is a do-over of one ordinary day before you ruined it, and to know, absolutely, that no such thing exists. And then to find a button that's warm. It gives you what you lost. I didn't press it to test a theory. Let's be clear about that. I pressed it because I already believed. I did it on a Tuesday, around 4 in the morning, the dead middle of the shift. I left the cart on 7. I rode the service car down past the lobby, past B1, past B2, and when the car stopped at B2I, stood there with my thumb over the warm button and my heart going like a fist on a door, and I pressed it. There was that pause. That second too long where the car thinks it over. Longer this time? Long enough that I almost laughed with relief, almost decided nothing was going to happen. Then the car dropped, not far. A few feet the way an elevator settles, and the doors opened on a hallway. I knew the hallway. God help me. I knew it before my eyes even finished adjusting. I knew it by the smell, because a place has a smell, and you don't remember you know it until you're in it again. Fabric softener and old coffee and the specific mustiness of the carpet in the building on Kestrel Street where Nora and I lived when she was small, after her mother and I split the first time, but before the second time, the good stretch, the 2 years I somehow got right. The hallway ran ahead of me exactly the way it used to. Same water stain on the ceiling shaped like a boot, same door at the end, 4C, with the little brass knocker Nora liked to bang. From behind that door, I could hear a television going, cartoons, the tinny music of a show I could have named in my sleep because I'd heard it 10,000 Saturday mornings, and I could hear a kid laughing. A little girl, maybe 6, laughing at the TV the way kids do when they don't know anyone's listening. I want to tell you I understood in that moment that it was a trap. I didn't. I understood that I was home, and that the last 14 months and the 10 years before them had been the nightmare, and this warm hallway that smelled like fabric softener. This was the thing that was true. I walked to the door. My hand was shaking so bad it took me 3 tries to turn the knob. She was on the floor in front of the TV in dinosaur pajamas, 6 years old, her hair in the crooked braids I used to do badly every morning. And when the door opened, she turned around and her whole face lit up and she said, "Bear!" That was her name for me. When she was little, she couldn't say Dad right. It came out Bear, and it stuck, and I was Bear until she was 9 or 10 and decided it was a baby thing, and I hadn't heard it in. I couldn't do the math. I couldn't do anything. I was on my knees on the carpet, and she ran into me, and she was warm and solid and real. She smelled like kid, like sleep and cereal, and I held my daughter who was 19 and wouldn't answer the phone, 6 years old and laughing in my arms, and I broke apart completely. I don't know how long I was in there. That's the first thing that should have scared me and didn't. Time didn't work right. We watched the cartoon. I made pancakes in the little kitchen. The ingredients were there. They were always going to be there. The box of mix, the bad non-stick pan I'd thrown out years ago. Rain started on the windows. It was the Sunday. I knew it was the Sunday, the specific one, the last completely ordinary happy day before the drinking got bad, the one I'd played back 1,000 times lying awake. I was inside it. She asked me to do the voices when we read the dinosaur book, and I did the voices. and she laughed at the same part she always laughed at. At some point, I don't know when, I went to the bathroom and I splashed water on my face, and I looked in the mirror, and I tried to remember the PIN for my bank card. I couldn't. It's a stupid thing to reach for. But I'd stood at the bathroom mirror, and for no reason my mind had gone to the 4 digits I'd typed maybe 5,000 times, the ones I used every week, and there was just a smooth place where they'd been. Not forgotten the way you fumble for something. Gone the way a tooth is gone. A clean socket, and standing there with the water running I heard Marisol's voice. The cold ones bring you back, some of them only do half. And I heard the cartoon through the wall, and my daughter laughing, 6 years old, and I understood what the warmth was. It was the heat of everything the building was burning to keep the room lit. And it wasn't burning the building's fuel, it was burning mine. I made myself leave. That was the hardest thing I've ever done, and I did it wrong. I did it like a coward, because I couldn't do it like a father. I couldn't explain to a 6-year-old why Bear had to go. So I told her I'd be right back. I told my own child, in the one place in the universe where I had her again, the exact lie I'd told her 100 times when she was real, and I was drunk and right back meant gone. I told it to her again because it was the only way my legs would carry me to the door. She said, "You promise?" And I said yes, and I stepped into the hallway and I ran. The service car was still there, doors open, waiting. I got in and I pressed one, and there was the pause, the terrible thinking it over pause, and then it lifted, and the doors opened on the lobby of the Merritt Tower at, I checked my phone, 4:19 a.m., 15 minutes. I'd been down there 15 minutes by the clock. It had been a whole Sunday. It had been years. My cart was on 7 where I'd left it. I finished the shift. I don't know how. My hands knew the work, and I let them do it while I sat somewhere behind my own eyes, trying to find my PIN and not finding it. And here's the thing I have to make you understand, because it's the whole trap. It's the genius of the thing. Losing the PIN didn't feel like a wound. It felt like a bargain I'd gladly made. 4 digits for a Sunday with my daughter? I'd pay that every night. I'd pay it 100 times. That's how it gets you. It doesn't take anything you'd miss. Not at first. I told myself I wouldn't go back. I lasted 9 days. In those 9 days I lost more. And it took me a while to notice, because you don't notice the missing until you reach for it. I lost the name of the guy who trained me at Brightwork. Big friendly guy. We'd shared 100 smoke breaks, and one night I went to text him and his name was just not there, and his face was going soft at the edges too, like a photo left in the sun. I lost the melody of a song that had been stuck in my head for 20 years. I lost, I think, some road. I got turned around driving home on a route I'd driven daily, sat at an intersection I didn't recognize with my heart pounding until it swam back. Small things. Nothing things. And every one of them was a coin I was somehow still spending on that Sunday, even though I hadn't gone back, because, and this is what I figured out too late, it wasn't charging me by the visit. It had gotten into me. It was charging me rent. Once you press the warm button, part of you stays down there in the room, and the room keeps the meter running. The only way to stop paying, I understood, was to go back down and get that part of me out. Or to go back down and stay, and let it take the rest, and never feel the loss, because there'd be no one left to feel it. Just Bear, and a little girl, and a Sunday with no end. That option was there too. That option was, God help me, starting to look like mercy. On the 9th night I went to the service car, and I pressed the warm button again. And this time, remember the logbook, do not press it twice. This time the doors opened on the hallway, and there was no pause when I stepped out, and behind me the elevator doors closed, and when I turned around to check, the elevator was gone. Not open, not closed. Gone. Just wall. Kestrel Street didn't have an elevator. Why would it? I was home. She was at the door before I reached it this time. 6 years old, dinosaur pajamas, and she said, "You came back," and she wasn't smiling. She was just looking at me with those serious eyes she got sometimes, too old for her face, and she said, "You promised." I got down on the carpet with her, and I tried to hold the thing in my head that I'd come down there to hold. The reason I couldn't stay, and I reached for it, and it was going right then the way the Payen had gone. I knew there was a Nora who was 19. I knew it the way you know a fact you read once. But I couldn't picture her. Grown Nora's face wouldn't come. Every time I reached for 19-year-old Nora, I got 6-year-old Nora instead, brighter and realer every second, and the grown one thinned out like breath on glass. That was the toll for the second press. It wasn't taking PINs and songs anymore. It had come for the main line. It was taking the real one to pay for the copy. I did the only thing I could think of. I had my phone. In the room, the phone shouldn't have worked. Kestrel Street was years ago. There was no signal in a memory, but it lit up when I pressed it, because I think the building let me keep it the way you let a fish keep swimming in the net. And in my phone was the photo, not the one taped in my locker. The one on my phone, the last one she ever sent me before the silence 14 months ago, a selfie from some parking lot, 19 years old, tired, not smiling, sent with a text that just said, "Got the money you sent. Thanks." 4 words. The coldest 4 words in the world, and I had read them 1,000 times, and I had kept them because they were proof she still, barely, on some level, let me exist. I looked at that photo. 19-year-old Nora, tired, in a parking lot, 4 cold words. And the 6-year-old on the carpet in front of me said, "Bear, who's that?" And I understood that I had to choose, not between staying and leaving, between 2 daughters. The one who loved me without reservation because she was 6, and I hadn't failed her yet. And the one who was real, who was out there right now, 19 and tired and done with me, who I had hurt so badly she could barely stand to say thanks for the money. The building was offering me the one who still called me Bear. All I had to do was let go of the one who didn't. The little girl reached up to see the phone. And I did the hardest thing. I closed the photo and I took my daughter's real number, which I could still just barely remember, and I called it at 4 a.m, from a memory, from the floor of a room that was eating me. It rang. I don't know how it rang. It rang, and the 6-year-old faded. Not violently, just gently, like a channel changing, like she'd only ever been light on a wall, and the room started to go with her, the smell thinning, the rain on the windows falling quieter, and I stood in a graying hallway with a phone to my ear listening to it ring, and I thought she won't answer. She never answers. It's 4 a.m, and she's done with me, and the ringing was the loneliest sound I have ever heard. And then it stopped. "Dad?" And a voice, thick with sleep and instantly, terribly guarded, said, "Dad?" Just that. One word, a question braced for whatever was coming, because a call from me at 4 a.m. had never once in her life been good news. I couldn't talk. I stood in a hallway that was turning back into a service elevator around me. Wall becoming door. Door becoming the buzzing steel box that smelled like oil and rope, and I heard my daughter's real voice, 19 and exhausted and weary. And it was the most beautiful thing I have ever heard, because it was real. It cost me nothing. It was hers, and not the building's. "Nora," I said. "I'm sorry. I know it's late. I don't want anything. I just needed to hear you were there." "En silence." The kind you could fall into. "You sound weird," she said finally. "Are you okay?" And I started to cry, quietly, so she wouldn't hear it, standing in the service car of the Merritt Tower at 4:22 a.m, 3 minutes after I'd stepped out of it, and I said, Yeah, baby, I'm okay. I'm gonna be okay." The doors opened on the lobby. I stepped out and I did not look back at the panel. I finished my shift. In the morning, I called Brightwork and quit, and I never went into that building again. That was about a year ago. Nora and I won't oversell it. We talk. She let me buy her lunch a few weeks after that night, and then again a month later, and now it's most Sundays. a diner near her place. Nothing dramatic, just two people learning how to be in a room together without one of them being a disaster. She doesn't call me Bear. She calls me Dad, careful, like a word she's testing the weight of. I'll take it. I'll take it for the rest of my life and be grateful. But I have to tell you the part I can't get past. The part that's the reason I'm telling this at all. I got her back, the real one. And I paid for it with the fake one. I understood I was paying that. I chose it. That was the whole point. But the building didn't take only the copy. I can't remember Nora as a child anymore. Any of it. Not the real memories, the ones that were mine before I ever found that button. I know we lived on Kestrel Street because it's written down. I know she was 6 once because that's how time works. But when I reach for her actual, real 6-year-old self, the crooked braids I really did do badly, the Sunday that actually happened, there's nothing there. A clean socket. The building didn't just take the fake little girl when I let her go. It took the real one with her, because by the end it couldn't tell them apart. And neither, God help me, can I. I have my daughter back. I will never remember her as a child. That was the trade, and I didn't know I was making it, and I would make it again. And it is the single worst thing that has ever happened to me, all at once. Last Sunday at the diner, Nora got up to use the bathroom, and I sat in the booth and looked at nothing, the way I do now, feeling around the empty places to see which ones are still empty. And a busboy came out of the back carrying a bin, and behind him, through the swinging door before it shut, I saw the diner's service elevator, a little freight car they use to bring stock up from the basement. Old, the kind of thing every old building has. The door swung shut before I could see the panel. I've been trying not to think about it. I've been mostly succeeding. But I keep coming back to something Marisol said, the empty-eyed woman who'd forgotten her own son mid-sentence. And I think I finally understand it, and I wish I didn't. The cold ones bring you back, she said. Some of them only do half. I came back. I'm sure I came back. I'm sitting in a diner across from my grown daughter, and I came all the way back. But I've started to wonder which half, because there's a warmth I feel sometimes now. In my own chest, low down, that wasn't there before that year. A patient, waiting heat, like a mug set down 20 minutes ago, like a thumb-worn button holding onto the last of somebody's hand. And every Sunday, when Nora gets up and walks toward the back of that diner, toward that door, toward that little elevator, I have to hold on to the edge of the table and remind myself, out loud, quietly, so I don't forget it the way I've forgotten everything else. Don't press the button that's warm. I just hope I remember long enough. I forget so much now, and it would be so easy some Sunday to reach for the wrong thing and find for one warm second that it's finally, mercifully cold.